eyes got so big on the start of that. Okay.
The thing.
So we're going. So now, number 1. Go over the 10 words. So everyone's got their words up?
Oh, I have the thing up, not the... I pulled up the discussion for our group and not the 10-word discussion.
So my 10 words were hello, bye, my name is... Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Teaching kids your age.
Just like, we're going to get to the important stuff. My name is, how are you? I'm good, thank you, you're welcome. Do you speak? Speak, whatever language they speak.
Oh, that's
Have a good day, where is blank?
I have a lot of similar stuff. Hello, bye, what is your name? And then I have I am, he is, she is, you are, and then the question mark.
Oh, that's good.
And then can I, may I. I also said time and dates. And then my favorite thing is, and I like love.
That's good.
I had my name is, what is your name? Where are you from? Where's the restroom? Help. Allergy. How old are you? How are you? Goodbye. Hello.
Allergy.
No, I think allergy
You
is
really thought about serious
Yeah.
scenarios there. Allergy. They're in a crisis. They're gonna be able to have
And
that.
language help is kind of important.
Yeah, I feel
too.
like what do you do if you're
just slowly
Yeah.
build. You're like, help, allergy, I'm dying. All these things save me, take me to the hospital. What do you think is gonna go down here?
Don't have high expectations.
I know the U.S. is a danger.
Mine was all so they can't get past the basic conversation, but hello, my name is, do you speak blank? Where is blank? How are you? I am well, thank you, you're welcome, help, and numbers 1 through 10. I don't know if you can do that, but I did that.
No, that's a good idea. That's a
I feel
good
like,
idea.
Yeah,
I like it.
numbers don't count as full words. Maybe we'll just say that for the sake of this.
It's okay. I think a lot of us cheated.
I know mine is nothing. I didn't do a list of 10 because I just said I started out with a context of I'm teaching immigrants working because I've worked with a lot of Spanish. I worked with a lot of Spanish-speaking Mexican immigrants. What did you say?
No, I didn't mean to sound bitter. Somebody is really thinking about it. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I'm so hurt. I don't know if I could finish. So yeah, I worked with a lot of Spanish-speaking Mexican immigrants in farms. So I was like, what would they want to know? And so I just did hello. I began with hello all the way from my hand, and then I came up with a whole little lesson.
Wow.
And then my name is, what is your name? And then I would take them outside with a shovel and seeds and dirt and water, and then have them teach them the verb to plant. So I would to plant the seed, and then I would show them that, and then I would tell them plant the seed, and then they would put it in the soil and cover it up, and water the seed, and then they would.
Yeah.
But
Nice. Wow.
Just over here, allergy.
allergy. No, that's important too. My students know how to plant a seed, but they don't know how to get medication. So I don't know.
No, that's a good
Right?
idea.
There you go.
I like it.
Actually,
There were a lot of
Like
similarities.
yesterday,
We had a lot of introduction stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think everyone has hello and bye in there, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone did.
Except for someone.
I had hello.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I had just hello. They don't know how to finish a conversation.
Hi.
Are you guys looking at her, the first
Oh
word?
yeah, the first word to the for the different tribes.
Oh,
Because she
yeah.
has stand up, sit down, be
Namaste.
quiet. I think that
Isn't that
also
interesting?
depends. Yeah, that's interesting. I think it
And
also
young
depends
people
on
use
what kind of what age group you're teaching.
They never
Because I
said
feel
bye
like
for me.
I think
Maybe they're
quiet
confused.
is a
No,
good
literally.
thing to learn.
I would be
if
the
you're teaching,
conversation's
adults,
over,
they're not
just
necessarily
walk
gonna,
away.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
They're just
I was thinking the same thing.
It'd be rude.
That's something I would think.
There's
If
just
I
this
said
long
be
drawn
quiet
out,
to an adult, I would feel like I was being disrespectful
yeah.
to
gotta go do
them.
my
Yeah.
homework.
In the
Okay.
our
Totally.
cultural context.
Yeah.
And it seems like it'd be more something you'd say to a kid.
Yeah,
You're
like
talking about the word.
quiet.
Be quiet as a first
And, like,
word.
listen
That's
to
on
me.
the fourth word.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we were
I
just
picked one. I
we
was
just
like,
picked one.
Just the words
Or
that- the
yeah,
words that
I
we
thought
use
it
for
was really
all of the
cool
tribes
how
and the Spokane tribe.
the
What did they
tribe
teach?
was like, oh, we would teach prayer,
Yeah.
as a first
Mhm.
word. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's because they were I don't know for sure, but it's probably because they were trying to I don't want to say program, but like reprogram their brains a little bit more towards like Christianity and stuff. So they want them to forget their old religions and focus more on integrating into.
Is this what? Let's see.
Oh, I thought this was something that the tribes taught their kids. I thought.
Same, but that makes way more sense now.
Yeah,
They would
I thought it was like the
I thought it was
the
the other
tribes
way.
were
Okay,
praying.
No,
Ignore me.
the program. What I think is weird is if it's a program, it's probably state funded, and it's interesting that some of these are a little religious. Like prayer
Back
and
then,
Okay.
the state and religion were necessarily.
First, we're talking about the tribes language program. Oh, so
I thought
this is.
back in the day.
I thought this was.
Isn't it
I thought
different
this was
with like
is it current or
What did it become to this?
Well, basically, this is this like like white American people teaching like Native Americans, or is this?
Yeah.
I took it as it was a Native American tribe teaching their children.
Right.
Okay.
But that makes no sense.
Yeah. Why would they teach us English?
I just don't know why I thought that.
No, I thought that too.
Stupid.
No.
I was
Yeah,
like
no.
in that zone. I was like, oh, that's
Same.
interesting. And I was
Why
like,
is that on your
well, that makes more sense then because all of these are commands.
Yeah.
Pay
I kind of
attention,
thought of
stand
it
up,
as
sit down,
a-
respect.
So, yeah.
Look at me. I thought it was kind of like, whoa, that's a lot of commands.
And then the other one,
Prayer.
first words taught by the Spokane Tribal
Yeah.
Language Program, Mom, Dad.
a lot of family
Mom,
members.
dad, family.
And that one's more like
This
focused on
one was more focused
I didn't
on.
know like the
tradition
legal-
and
Yeah.
culture.
That makes sense.
person with What? Sorry, that probably wasn't politically correct.
So this prayer then
She said-
isn't
she's
like
what do you call white people? I'm like Caucasian.
that is.
I was thinking
Person
like more
without
like
color.
missionary, but that doesn't make sense. I was like,
What you mean,
that's
like-
not the direction.
You-
I was going.
I'm like, what other words are there?
Person without color? No, that's not the direction I was
the
going.
colorless people.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
sorry.
sounded like you were looking for like a politically correct.
Yeah,
term,
no,
so
that I was sorry.
that I just got goofy.
Refocusing on the
Sorry.
sorry.
Susie.
So we decided that it's
Basically, this is like colonialism.
okay. Yeah, so
That's
then
what it
that's-
is.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
so we
that's
are
what I
talking
was.
Yeah.
What
I
was
thought
the
it was like a
question?
Native American prayer, like that was them saying that they would teach prayer, but then I realized no, that's like white people saying learn how to pray like
Well, it
us.
makes sense that they're commands then.
Yeah.
But it says like, bless our elders,
Yeah,
our children, and our food.
I know. That's why I thought it might have been their culture, but I just don't. Because it was saying elders, so I was like, oh, it shows that they really respect their elders and like
Yeah.
that's important to them. But I don't know if that was just people trying to say like I don't know. It's confusing.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's kind of both almost. Like
Yeah.
colonialism, and then also something that the tribes would want to teach their
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, elders and stuff. Although still in like the Christian religion, people have the idea of like blessing your elders and stuff too.
Okay, cool.
So
The tribes separately wouldn't teach amen.
amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought was weird. As I saw the amen, I was like, that doesn't seem like Native American tradition. I was like, maybe. I was like, I don't know. But yeah, so basically, this is not a Native American prayer. This is like teaching them how to pray. Like,
And then the next one is just mostly like family members, and then a little bit of like cultural
People eating
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
all the
that.
normal stuff.
And then my name is important.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I don't think she wanted
You
to
teach
just
them
think
that.
they're, like,
It's
symbols.
also
Yeah.
listed above my name is.
This seems the second one seems more like tribe oriented, less like
Yeah. So basically, one is like what we think they should know, and the other one's what they value more.
Yeah,
So that's my favorite.
yeah, because I didn't put any like family
I don't think
words
she
and
can
like
hear your
Yeah.
finger guns.
Just so you know,
I don't know. I
you
feel
can
like
see me do it. So
Would you
that I
mind
was like,
describing it?
finger guns are happening. So, do you see any cultural influences? We just talked about that.
Yeah.
How do they add to your? So we just talked about that basically.
I just think like we don't think of like I don't think any of us put like any family.
No, no.
Which is funny because I'm thinking back to like my first Spanish class. I think we probably did one like
Yeah.
Mom,
I remember the
family,
same.
yeah.
Like, the first part of French class was mom, dad, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But,
Family
like, I don't
is-
think about that. I'm like, just
I think that's secondary. My first thought of what they need to know is how to encounter a person and have a great.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
like
That's what
conversational.
That's just what I instantly.
It's more not. That's what because I don't know. I feel like
I can't judge because it's like different cultures, but like you know, just like knowing grandma is not as important as knowing like help or like you know, in like a conversationalist.
Yeah.
Or
I
like
see
your
what you're
loss
saying.
where is
Yeah.
so important.
And
Yeah.
if you don't know any other words besides like grandma, it's like it's just grandma. You know, like
Yeah.
grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I feel like
What do
with
they
help,
need to
like
know?
everyone knows what help means.
Yeah.
You don't need any like you're just like help. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know in like, so when I was in Myanmar, some of the first things I learned were names for like aunt, uncle, cousin, older sister, older brother, younger brother, because that's what you call everybody. Like somebody who's a woman who's like a lot, somewhat older than you is your aunt, who's a lot older than you is your grandmother. And so like in a normal conversation that would come up. So like for this, I kind of wonder if they have a similar sort of thing, like before you
That
start a
makes
conversation.
so much sense
Be
because
like,
the
"Hey."
tribe raises the child. It's not the parent, just the parents.
I feel
Like it's a whole
So it's
just
kind of
the
like
community.
pronouns for these different words.
I bet you
pronouns
like
are
they
different.
might grow up with that idea maybe that like all their elders are like their grandma and grandpa's. Like I don't
Right.
know, but that would make sense because like I know with like a lot of
words would be necessary, kind of.
like for example, for like tribal youth that are going into foster care, they our government has to consult the whole tribe, and the whole tribe says what they want to have done with the child versus like just the parents. Like here, you would only talk to like parents about anything.
Yeah.
Like that. But there, it's the whole tribe. So
I know that too, like in some places they have, when a child is growing up, they move them from like house to house. And so each family gets a turn in raising the child too. I know some places in Canada. But I just wonder, like we were talking about, for us it's important to be able to initiate conversation and like, keep going, so
that
saying
is.
hello. But like in Myanmar, I would say like ko if I was talking to a guy who was slightly older than me, or I would say like auntie or something.
I think respect in some other cultures is more important than getting your point across.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like I think here, like definitely with Spanish, like one of the first things I learned was like usted. Because they're like if you don't say it to certain people, they're gonna like mad at you. And like here, it's like it's still important, but like I don't really say like ma'am.
Nobody will get mad.
Most
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just have that like
Yeah.
hierarchy kind of.
Yeah,
and we don't really have anything.
Unless you live in Texas.
Oh really? Yeah,
I have friends who
Yeah,
are from
ma'am,
Texas, and they're
sure.
like, "Hey, ma'am, can I open the door for you?" And I was like,
Oh yeah.
I've been
I'm a
called
ma'am.
ma'am a few times, and like it
Oh, I don't
really
like that.
is so like it carries so much weight. Like
Yeah,
ma'am, like when
definitely.
someone's like thank you, ma'am, I'm like oh,
You're like,
I'm like oh ma'am, like,
I am a
because it's like
ma'am.
I don't really hear it ever.
Of a certain age. I felt like it was miss.
Ma'am to me is like a very
called me
formal
unmarried
way of
woman.
saying like in like to me. Well, when someone says it to me, I think of it as like you're seeing me as like an adult, and like it's a respectful thing.
Ma'am always
That's
carries,
what
like an age connotation for me. I always feel like if I'm called ma'am, I'm like,
Or at least
that's like my first thought. I'm like, oh my god, I'm a ma'am.
I've always looked like a baby my whole life, and people have always thought I'm like 15, 14. So for me, when I'm called ma'am, it's like this, like wow, like you don't see me as a child, like like not getting like I remember sitting down with my friends at a table at a restaurant. They'd give adult menu, and then they'd come to me and they give me crayons, and I was just like,
so funny.
I am 18, and and it was just like wow, like what I mean?
no, that's so.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So that was like, I remember the first time they like handed me an adult menu, and my friend was like, oh my god, I'm like, actually, I really want to color, but like, I'm so happy that you actually handed me an adult menu. Oh yes, it was the day.
That's pretty.
Oh, so the number 2, the Banks article, how multicultural education relates to teaching English internationally. How would you implement this idea in your classroom or school? Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. That one.
The Banks.
I watched all the videos, but I didn't see the article.
I'm confused.
It's his article though. There were like 4 videos, 2 of them were optional.
I know I read. Oh, it's on the overview.
We all got really
Go. I think. Wait, is it? Yeah.
Oh, it's multiculturalism.
Ah, yes. Okay.
2 hours worth of reading. It says.
Well,
I thought the video was
Yes, it was.
was the long. Oh.
Okay.
Well, she didn't tell us about. I don't think she.
there's a
didn't
lot
know
of
about
like
the
bolded points on it though. We can talk about those kind of just like. Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I guess I'll just do 3 right now. Yeah?
Wait. What? No. I think we should maybe look at the article.
Yeah, we can look at it.
I
Talk
thought
about
maybe,
it.
well, I thought maybe
Here,
we
yeah.
go back
So-
to it.
All of these.
It's about
Yeah, I know. It's pretty
Let's
obvious.
talk about it.
Multicultural education. You sound like you really know your thing.
I studied this
Whoa.
article.
Oh, okay. I thought we were like.
Oh my gosh.
That was actually so funny. I'm sorry.
You can hold them together.
It's just kind of, it's like a question and answer type of thing.
Okay.
Integration, okay.
Yes.
Knowledge, instruction,
Equity
pedagogy.
Pedagogy.
Is that right?
Yeah,
that
it's
word
like
before.
Sounds right.
You have to like sit it.
I'm like pedagogy.
Oh, I mean, it's 8 pages. I don't know if it's 2 hours.
She had like dash 2 hours on it.
I love when she tells me how long it's going to take for the assignment.
What is the 4th? Prejudice reduction. Okay, it's coming back to me a little bit now.
All right.
After the 4th. I think I just read this part.
Maybe she shouldn't be drinking that coffee.
Take a breather.
Maybe you should turn the video towards him.
What are you recording on?
We'll be back after these.
It's just.
We should really have a commercial break.
I know. Intermission.
Yeah.
I wonder if
I mean,
we
this is
can.
just a chance for us all to study together.
Whatever.
It's due on Thursday, so if we all do it together, I mean, we all learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna learn.
Such a positive way.
Yeah, wow. You're just like such a ray of sunshine in this cloudy day.
I was looking at her water bottle and thinking that exact thing.
Her water bottle? Oh, that helped. What water bottle? I was like, what? Okay, sorry. Well, I don't know. I just was like,
Okay, so what is the first?
Okay.
Let's start with
Okay,
the
let's just start with the beginning.
Alright, so content integration.
Stop drinking that coffee.
Sugar is in there.
Oh god.
Language, arts, and social studies teachers can do more than physics teachers. Whoa, that's quite the bold statement.
Wait, what is it?
He kind of says
Language, arts,
I'll
and
tell you
social
later.
studies teachers can do more than physics teachers.
Bulletin boards of famous women, physicists or minority physicists, or people covering physicists, but it isn't really what multicultural education is about. I think doing more. He's saying they can do more in terms of multicultural education.
I was actually just talking to my student about that. He was saying schools in Nicaragua are like kind of more rounded No, it wasn't my student. This is so random. I just got like a second conversation partner. Separate from this one, separate from this class. Someone was just like, I need a conversation partner. I was like, okay.
Got nothing but time.
I was like, other partner. So this is my partner from China, my new one. And he was saying, like, in these schools, you have to take music lessons, you have to take art lessons.
I've heard that.
Yeah, you have to take like
That's
sports
crazy.
all through school, not just like optional after school sports.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's kind of like that.
In
Like they want
Taiwan,
no, go for it, go.
in Taiwan, you have to learn how to play dodgeball. Like, you have to play dodgeball. And you have to learn how to play.
That's so interesting.
It's like a ocarina. It's like a flute type of thing. And the drums. Like,
Oh,
they're
man.
at school until 6:30 at night. Because they have to do that stuff at night.
Do they get like a chunk out of the day in the middle to do stuff? I know like Germans, they come early in the day and then they go home to their families for lunch and then they come back to school.
Wow. No, yeah, they just chill there all day. I was talking to my teaching partner about it. I was like, that sounds awful. She's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, I have like an hour class on some days. I'm like,
It's so funny though because like in high school when you're at school for 7 hours it's nothing, but when you come to college
I
and you have
know.
class for more than 3 hours, you're like,
It was also like
Yeah, I know.
You got up at like 5 hours.
It's
weird.
well, there's just some. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because you're using a lot more mental energy.
it's less demanding. For some
Like I
classes,
just
had
goofed
to
off
be
right
there.
now.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to do it. Honestly.
Yeah. You can't, I mean, with
And
college,
you're
it's
like paying
I
for
have
it,
the
you know. There's like
choice.
There's a lot more
No.
pressure
it's just really a lot more.
and stress.
So how does multicultural education relate to teaching English internationally? How would you implement his ideas in your classroom or school? So implementing.
So like implementing their culture with your lessons or helping.
maybe just
Yeah,
like
like
all
English.
around keeping an open mind, like
Yeah.
being willing to incorporate their culture, but also incorporating like the American English culture
Yeah.
into your lesson.
I
think
Yeah.
I kind of understand what you're saying because so like just this paragraph it says it wasn't west to the Lakota Sioux, it was the center of the universe, that was their home. It wasn't west for Mexicans because it was north. It wasn't west for the Japanese, it was east. So you have to adjust to each individual.
I never thought about
Do you know
that.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says
Wow,
westward
totally.
movement is like a really heavily loaded term because what does that mean for like
Right.
certain
Mm-hmm.
like regional groups? I guess
Yeah.
is what he's saying. Which
Yeah.
makes sense. So you need to kind of adapt your. You need to be flexible.
That's
Remember you said
a
something like
really.
I was literally just talking to my friends.
So
for 2 hours
basically,
about this.
like, you have to realize that when you come and you go internationally, you are bringing a whole like perspective on like history and everything. with
Right.
You know, so it's like
Yeah.
when you start talking to them, it's like, what are you even talking about? Like, what are you, you know? Because it's like just how things. Something really interesting. Actually, this like relates, but it's more like an analogy for this. But my sister's best friend was from Japan, and she says like their recounts of like Pearl Harbor are
I've heard this.
totally
I've heard this.
different.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
Totally different. And you know, it was just like really interesting to realize like I have been taught only one perspective.
side. Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually don't have an unbiased look at this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was like really revolutionary for me because I was like, oh my gosh, history is biased. Like you know, because you just take it and you just think it's like, oh, this is what everyone learns this. No, they don't. So that's really like kind of scary when you realize you're going internationally. Like, oh my gosh, like what are my biases? You know, what am I bringing over?
I think also as Americans, we kind of expect the whole world to just like know what's going on with us because we think of ourselves as like the same.
I mean, they kind of
Yeah.
do in a way.
Yeah,
They're
it's like
better
sometimes they
educated
do,
about
but it's
other
like
But we are
yeah,
not.
Yeah.
I think like sometimes we do assume like we're like, oh, you know this, and then they're like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
and we're like, why did
It's
you know
kind of
that? And
both
it's like,
ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we often fail to like learn about like other countries.
Oh yeah.
And then they're learning a lot about us, but then also there's things that we assume is a fact that is like not a fact, you know? So I think that it's just everything.
Yeah, for sure.
My first Spanish teacher here used to have like a really big thing about before you go somewhere, you should read up on history, not just like what's happening right now. Because a lot of places don't have like a great impression of the U.S.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
Because even not to like the extreme of like Pearl Harbor.
Right, just like a slight
Well, I think
negative.
it was like the Panama Canal or the Panama Dam or something. And she was telling us how we, like, basically forced them to build it, and then we were like, there's a better trade center over here, so we're just gonna not use this, have fun with your, like, $1 billion dam.
Right.
And just, like, left.
Oh my gosh.
And so they don't like us.
This is like somewhat related as well. My teacher just got back from China, and he's Chinese, but he hasn't been back to China in a long time. And he like went over there and he started talking about like politics here, and they were all like, "Oh my gosh, we love Trump!" Like they were just like, and he was like, "Wait, what?" Like, and it was just kind of like an interesting.
Wait, who was saying they love Trump?
The Chinese
students there.
Because and it was actually people like his age too, because they were saying like that they had a different like outlook on like what he was doing.
businessman.
Yeah, and so I just thought that was interesting because like we kind of think that we're like everyone just like is looking at our politics right now like oh my god, which
Right.
But some people
The Burmese were like, when they were watching the debates, I was like, but we don't even know, most people don't even know where Myanmar is. And they were watching our debates and they were like, they're so childish. And so they told me.
I love watching
2-year-old
the
running
like
the country.
But, yeah, colonialism in Myanmar is awful.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about going to countries that have been colonialized.
Colonized.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Definitely have done that before.
and then like imagining going there teaching and just imagining that kind of like relationship that you would have. It's been a while, obviously, but like
But
there's
it's
still that.
still-
Yeah.
There's still that kind of like. I don't want to say hostility, but just like that negative impression, kind of. So like.
Yeah. Either
Yeah,
they're,
it's
like,
really something.
Yeah. It seems like either they're like, oh my gosh, we've been oppressed by you before, and we don't want you here.
Right.
Or it's like, oh my gosh, you're so much better than us, and we will like worship
Yeah, that's so sad.
you.
that makes me like uncomfortable, which it should. Like
No,
but,
yeah.
Like I've definitely like I don't know, just like experienced like things like that where I'm like oh no, like
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I knew I had finally gotten through to my friends when they let me clean their floor with a rag. I was like, yes, finally, you let me be one of you. Just, like, let me do the dirty work with you.
I think like again, I don't know, I'm just thinking I don't know if it's related, but like also a lot of like well specifically with like Taiwan, they always want you to say their like English name, and I'm always like I can say like I can say your Taiwanese name, and they're just like no, like say my English name, and like it's okay, and I'm like no, it's okay, like I I want to like call you by your real name, and they're very like persistent about it, and it's like interesting.
Yeah.
Just like
You don't need a new identity.
yeah, I'm like I'm not about to change your name to come,
Yeah. It is really. So maybe what we're saying is like we'd implement his ideas in the classroom by like kind of like that part you read out loud, just like realizing like what we've learned is kind of an opinion and not facts. Kind of coming with that mindset when we go to teach somewhere, like
Being flexible about it.
yeah.
He says in the next section, like, by equity pedagogy, I simply mean that teachers change their methods to enable kids from diverse racial groups and both genders to achieve. So basically just not having, like, one set way of teaching and being open to, like, having different ways of teaching. And, like, meet the topic.
Yeah.
I think I like what you said, too, about when you go to another place, you need to learn about it. And
Yeah,
so,
that's really good.
before you go and teach, you found what?
I found like the details of the dam. I'm like, I'm not making this up, right? I don't remember this. I had to check myself.
But yeah, just like before you go and teach somewhere to figure out, like learn about their culture and their values and their perspectives.
Absolutely.
Like immerse yourself in that and then teach them. Because then you come with humility, not with pride.
Yeah.
As someone who went to Korea, that's kind of why after talking to him I wanted to go, but like I don't think he had the right mindset going into it because I think he thought he was going to go there and like Americanize them kind of like I don't know, he just didn't have in my eyes have the kind of the right mindset to it. And then when he got there and when he said that when he like tried to teach them the American ways or whatever, they didn't really respond the way that he thought they were, like positively, and I was like
Oh yeah.
boy, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to teach people to be American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't think
think
you
it's
went
good
into
to-
this with the
Yeah,
right
yeah,
mindset.
yeah.
It's good to teach about culture, but it's
Yeah,
not good
yeah.
to like force a
culture.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
thing is like you don't replace cultures, you share cultures with
Yeah.
people. So like when we go, it's like exciting to hear about each other's cultures and
Yeah.
learn about each other.
Mhm.
But it's never to replace somebody else's culture
Yeah.
or like
And to speak
Yeah.
English, you don't have to act American.
no.
Yeah, absolutely.
English is
Yeah.
actually I think it was in this class they said like there's more English speakers in China than here.
Whoa.
That was really crazy, you know.
That's really interesting.
I know, and it's kind of like, oh wow, like
Yeah.
you know, if English is based on who's speaking it most,
Majority.
but, you know, like you know, maybe they have
Chinese
the real
English.
first English. You know?
That's why that
It's kinda-
assignment that we did about, it was like a discussion post, and it was like about the like papers or whatever, and what language is offered in each state or whatever, and how some states were English only. I was like, English is not our official language or whatever. Like, so many other people in this country speak, their first language isn't English, so it was like,
yeah,
that makes no sense.
England, New Zealand.
There's so many other places.
yeah.
The
Mhm.
majority of
Canada.
Americans
Where did we get our English in the
Canada
first
speak
place?
English.
Honestly, yeah.
Why is the U.S.
The standard,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like if I went to go teach somewhere, I would want to just be able to like use English as a way to give them a voice to describe their own culture and like another way to express themselves and their own culture and their own traditions. And
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Should we move on to 3?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm always like,
No,
it's
get
good.
on
We
with
don't.
it.
I'm just thinking on my pasta time. Sorry. Subtractive bilingualism is defined as having members of a minority group learn the dominant language as L2, where they are more likely to experience some loss of ethnic identity and L1 skills. Subtractive bilingualism.
So basically, where
Yeah,
one
yeah.
language replaces another,
Okay.
and they lose one language as they learn another.
Mm-hmm. What are the challenges to maintaining ethnic identity and L1 skills while learning an L2 in the L2 setting? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's, that's, you're not there to replace something. You're just sharing and, like, adding.
My case study's little sister is kind of going through that because she was born in Korea, so English is Korean is her first language, kind of, but she's 6 now, and she spent 4 out of 6 years in America.
Yeah.
So, like, she speaks English better than her Korean, and she's kind of losing her Korean because she only really speaks it to her grandparents. So I feel like she's kind of experiencing that, maybe not to the degree that, like, Native American people went through it, because it was, like, forcibly changed, but, like, she's definitely, or what from I've heard, she's definitely losing, like, a lot of her Korean skills.
I think that's a good point. Like, because you might not always have someone to converse with in that language at your school or your workplace, but not forcing it out, not saying you can't use your language is like an important way to kind of show that respect for the language.
Yeah, I like the ideas where it'll say like what we're learning in Chiron's class right now. I don't know if you you're not, I'm in that class. None of you are in 421, but she encourages us to tell students to discuss things in their L1. So they're using their L1 in the classroom, and it's valued, and they know it's valued.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too because I've always been told like, oh, you have to only speak
Yeah,
English
yeah.
in class. You're learning
That's how it is
English,
now.
or like in Spanish. Like I only can speak Spanish, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it makes more sense when we go to classrooms, like, or we're learning Spanish for them to say only speak Spanish in the classroom because we don't really have any other place to speak Spanish.
And we're not
But-
going to lose our English, like, because we're still
Yeah.
learning. You know, I think
Yeah,
it's
that
different if you
makes
go abroad,
sense. That makes sense.
It's like, obviously when you go outside the classroom, you're still going to be speaking the target language.
Yeah, so you kind of need to have time to
Just not speak.
yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
Is it possible to be a minority group in an L2 dominant setting and experience more of an additive bilingualism, where the L1 skills and identity are maintained?
I think so.
I'm trying to think of examples.
Maybe,
Well, I think
like,
it depends on if you go with like a big group of people. Like, I don't know if this like has any effect on it, but I know like, a lot of people that come from like the same school and they travel like together. That's different versus just like going by yourself and like, going somewhere and just kind of like being secluded from like everyone.
Your family.
Yeah, like I knew people in my school that, like, as long as they could speak their L1 in the home, they were fine. But if they didn't have that L1 home
home setting,
case study.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
Yeah.
should just leave
they would
everything.
usually lose it. Is from what talking to people what they said. You know, they just have two different contexts for using it, and they were maintained pretty good.
Yeah, somehow my students still managed to keep her Chinese. I think it's still strong. But I think it's because she came over here at like 18.
Yeah, so she was kind of like ingrained over
Yeah.
there.
But I think it's very different than the experience the AUIP students have, where they come, like you said, as a large group of students.
It's very
Because they're
different.
usually talking to each other in their like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have good reason to remember.
Yeah.
I
So I'm like.
actually always think that's so sweet when you're in class with them and they'll kind of band together and leave and you give them switch languages and they're just it's like a different dynamic.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that.
It's good they have community, you know. I know a friend of mine who is Mexican, and his family obviously speaks Spanish in the home, but he says often over time, even because he's in, you know, the L2 dominant setting, but even though when he goes home, it's all Spanish, he'll come home, and he says every time he comes home, there's words that he forgot, like more words, and so he'll be talking, and then suddenly he's like, I don't remember that word, and they're like, all like, no, you know, so even though, you know, so that's, I think it just really is hard when you're in, I think when you are in L2 dominant, I think over time, it's kind of natural. I know, like, my sister-in-law, too, like, she goes to Germany and speaks German with, like, her family, but she lives here, and, like, every now and then she'll be talking on Skype. She says she'll forget a word, you know, that she knows she should know, but she's like, I don't remember what that is. So that's kind of interesting and sad. So it might, maybe, you know, over a long period of time, being in that L2 dominant might not really encourage additive bilingualism.
I wonder what percentage of that is normal and what percentage of that is lost. As a monolingual attempting to be bilingual, I'll just be talking in English and be like, oh my god, what's that word?
Honestly, yeah,
What's
I was
that
just
small
thinking
dog?
that.
Totally. I think they would know, though, because they say themselves, I know I'm forgetting.
Oh, okay.
Because even though I might forget a word or anyone forgets a word, I think I would know if it's like, I've forgotten how to say this. You know what I mean? Like, there's a sense of, like, I could have said this, like, last month, and I can't anymore. Or something. I don't know. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's like the difference of being like, oh, I'm forgetting my Spanish, and like, oh man, I forgot that one word in English, and I don't remember it.
Yeah. Like, because I have that all the time. I forget words. But I think I would know if it's, like,
Gone.
I've forgotten, like, how to say building. Like, I can't think of it. Like, I can say it in my other language, but I cannot say it in this language right now. You know? But it's just interesting.
I'm like quizzing myself as we're going through.
Yeah, it's like,
Which is
or
Yeah.
like, oh, nice. Or like, I remember a long time ago in high school, my friend was like, he couldn't tell the difference between Spanish or English with some words. Like, he would be like, he'd say a word, like, talking in Spanish, and his mom would be like, that's an English word. And he's like, really? She's like, listen. He's like, I can't. Like, he, you know, like, that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
I think it's also like, because I know, for some reason, I don't know why, I know some words in Korean that I don't know in English, just because I don't know why. Actually, I was going to explain. I don't know why I know them, but I like, it constantly happens to me, like, in a conversation, I'm speaking to someone in English, an English friend, and they, like, know the word in Korean, but I don't know the word in English. So I think it's just part of it, at least, not definitely not all of it. Part of it is just learning a bilingual language. Is you know some things in one language you don't
totally.
in others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfectly bilingual.
Yeah, I have a German friend who's pretty much bilingual in English and German. And she like called up her family to talk to them while she was over here. And apparently she spoke to them. She started the conversation entirely in English, was just talking to them like, oh, I did this and that and this and that. And then her family was like, why are you speaking English to us? And then
That
she was
is so crazy.
I don't know if that's like a loss at all. But she said she was starting to forget some.
Yeah,
German.
Definitely.
that is
This is
interesting.
weird.
Yeah, I've never experienced that because I've never known another language well enough to have that.
Yeah.
It's just like baffling thing as a monolingual speaker. Like I can't imagine. I physically cannot imagine forgetting English.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be so weird.
And it'd be scary because there's a lot, like, all my memories are in English, so forgetting English is hard. Like, how do you express those memories in another language?
That's why it was so
You know?
interesting that, I don't know if it was this class, it might have been another class,
I kind of want to
We're
experience
all
it.
like,
I know.
But like the dude who got the head injury and completely forgot English, couldn't speak English at all, but he could speak his other language. Okay, language.
But it's kind of like
Yeah,
the
so he had like a
Native American
severe head injury, and something in his brain was unwired or something. He couldn't speak any English, but he like his second language or something, or a language he had
was it
learned.
the French guy?
I think so. He could
I
speak
remember
it
that.
fluently, but not English. It was so
Yeah,
weird.
he'd taken like high
What
school French and he
the
got
heck?
injured, and then he just woke up. He couldn't remember his English, but he was like a fluent
That
French.
makes
Oh.
I can't understand
Yeah.
it. I
The
don't.
brain is so weird.
Okay, well that
Isn't it
needs to be
just,
looked up a little bit more.
Languages store in different parts of the brain.
Yeah, but isn't that crazy? You just get a severe head injury, so you
Yeah.
can't remember your first language. I'm like,
Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I feel like I
like
should
driving slow on the way.
I know. I'm already like a grandma driver, and I'm like, now I'm
can't
really
take it
gonna.
back.
I know. I'm like, I can't forget my English. I don't know a second language. So it'd really be bad.
start learning Spanish.
Because
I
I
know.
don't speak in English. So it's
yeah.
like, you could only think as much French as you knew. Like, that's all.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Like, you wouldn't physically be able. I would feel.
True.
Oh my god! I can't even imagine that. I can't be able.
Maybe you could picture it. You'd be like, you might not know the word for like water bottles.
Well,
You don't
that's
know,
why
like,
it's so
saying water bottle, you have to
frustrating, 'cause
picture
you
it.
Yeah,
express
especially
yourself.
my English learners. They're like, I know how to say this in my language. I don't know how to say it in English. But I hate
Yeah.
that frustration.
Yeah.
That is so annoying.
Like, I kind of genuinely want to experience this. Like, I want to go to another country for long enough where I start forgetting English.
Oh
so
my
I know what
God.
it feels like.
It's hard to imagine.
It is.
Like I can't imagine just like not knowing English.
Oh, of course.
But then you have a whole new way to describe things.
Second language,
Yeah,
that'd be
that is
cool.
And I don't get to.
Oh my god, I want to be bilingual so bad.
Me
I
too.
need to take my Korean
I
classes more
know.
seriously.
Oh.
Suddenly everything's more inspired.
I know. For me.
Yeah, honestly, like, call your mom. Be like, Mom,
I
I need
know.
for Korean classes in the summer. Just kidding, I have to work. I can't do college.
I know. That's the sucky thing. It's like, yeah. Alright, should we move on forward?
Yes.
Okay, you have watched several videos on language revitalization in Washington State. Discuss in your group your reactions to these videos. Do you have any muddy questions? What is your responsibility as a teacher of English, if any, to the maintenance of students' first languages?
I think language revitalization. There's really no negative to it.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
not forcing them to only use English, like acknowledging the importance of their native tongue.
Yeah.
I think teaching international, you wouldn't really have to do any maintenance because their environment, you know, they're surrounded by their L1, but if they come here and they're having to teach in America, like giving them time to either speak in class or like not forcing them to completely speak their L2s would be helpful in maintaining their first language if they're here long term.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the UAP students that they're leaving after a couple quarters, it might not be as big of a deal.
Like my IEP students, almost all of them spend at least a year or two in the IEP program, and then they almost all want to enter Western as a regular student afterwards. Most of them.
One of the videos was about how they're now coming up with like state-funded schools that are run by members of the community, like the tribal communities, and so they're actually like you have the elders teaching their language and their stories and
Good.
their trade, whereas before it was they didn't have enough funding, so they couldn't really do it. And so I think that's cool. Is like, you know, we don't need to be the only ones. I mean, when it comes to language revitalization, I think you should call on the elders, like the people in the community that really know the language,
Definitely.
and then give them the boost, the opportunity they need to teach the younger people.
Kind of like empowering people versus like keeping the power yourself. You know, if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
You know, being the authority to do that. It's like kind of like no, like you know, because that's the way it's really gonna survive.
Yeah.
You know.
And they also did it through schools because, like, students who were much younger would learn the language without, with an accent, or without accent, I guess. With the accent that follows the language. And so they were trying to target them as young as possible. So it's K through 12, but they want to get it to where it's K to career. So kindergarten to career. Just in their culture, their language, and stuff. But, yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating.
That
and really
is.
cool.
I really like this last question here that talks about like what is your responsibility as a teacher of English to the maintenance of a student's like L1, which I thought was like a really
I just think that's interesting because obviously, like, we're teaching English, so, you know, we're not spending any time really, like, teaching them their L1. But I do think, in a sense, like, yeah, I think I do have a responsibility to maintaining their L1 because I should make sure they know that their L1 is, like, super respected and, like, honored by me and valued and stuff. So I think in that sense, like, I might not be able to, like, teach them anything about that language, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think to maintaining it, I should show that it's, like, really valued.
Absolutely.
You know?
I think it's good to make it clear what your goal of teaching English is, or what your goal of like what your goal of like them learning English is. It's like it's a language, like it's supposed to be useful. It's not supposed to replace.
Yeah, exactly. I think
mean?
that's important.
Because it's like if you like go in and you're like, this is your new language, like this is the only language that matters. Yeah. It's like then that's obviously like not so good. But like if you're like, this is just a great like thing to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I know in Iran when they were teaching students English, they had them take their poetry, which is like one of the most important aspects to them, especially to the Sufi people, and so they had them take their Iranian poetry and translate into English to give them practice with English.
Yeah.
So they were actually using their culture and everything.
Yeah, I think it's important to like have the activities and ways of learning English, like having it like in the context of important parts of their culture. Like that's like totally worded like butchered, but you know, like I'm trying to say like basically not just being like, oh, you're gonna learn English and like I'm gonna teach you how to use English only in like the American culture context, but like showing how like you can use this like, you know, for like activities that are of interest to you, like not just making it seem like, I don't know, just showing that it's something that can be used.
It's versatile.
You know?
I think that would help them remember too. Like I would want to remember something that's applicable to my life.
Applicable, yeah, that's a good example.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they make us heroin.
What's
The drug? Yeah. Oh yeah, we were just talking about it
I don't
before we
need
started recording.
Hola, cocaine. It doesn't matter.
I'm not really.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That's on your like first 10 words list I'm teaching. It's like each
Cocaine.
gotta know.
Welcome to America.
I know.
We've now successfully crossed the border.
Oh gosh, yeah. Discuss.
Sorry.
That was funny.
Discuss your progress on your case study research and what you are learning from your language learner. What types of language are you finding? How are your findings answering your research questions? Case study research. So I just met with my person, so I haven't had a lot of time to like analyze like all the language yet. But basically what I'm finding, because I'm doing the activities versus conversation times, and I'm finding that there's definitely more vocab picked up with activities, I think. Because when you do a motion or you do something, oftentimes it'll be like, what's this action? And then like, to do the activity, you'll have to like say that word more, and so it's like, I don't really see any new vocabulary coming up in conversation because you really just kind of use what you already know, you know, but for an activity you have to use different words that you might not know to do it, you know. But in conversation you're using so much more language, like language, you know, syntax and grammar, and you're just not in activities. You don't have to talk. For some parts you're not talking at all. You're just laughing or you're, you know. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, for me, I don't think there's, like, one's better than the other. It's more kind of like, it looks like they both serve different purposes in language acquisition.
Okay.
So that's what I think my research is showing me. That's where I'm at. Cool.
Did you want to go?
Oh, no. I haven't met with her yet.
Okay. I just met with mine this morning, but it was for last week because she had to miss last Fridays, so I'm a little bit behind. But we basically just sat down. She had gone through a sociology book and underlined like all the words she didn't understand, them all down here. There's some big words. Oh my gosh. Like words I had to look up. And so I think what I'm kind of gathering is that people usually come into a culture with a certain amount of like motivated by integrative motivation first, because they have to get to talk to people and make connections, and unless they come in like, you know, a big group and move in a community, they have to become a part of the community, and so it's all integrative, and then it becomes instrumental after that, because like for Sherry, she just had to come here and meet people because she was just dropped in, or no, I wasn't supposed to say her name.
Okay. It's okay. I didn't hear. I heard Taylor. Okay, it's fine.
I totally told Susie it yesterday, and I felt so bad, but okay. But yeah, she's really sweet. If you ever meet her, she's awesome. But yeah, so she was basically just dropped into like school and America, and I think it was Texas. Yeah. And so she was motivated to integrate herself into the community first, and that's why she learned English. And now it's all about, she wants to finish her sociology major, and she wants to work in policy making in Europe, maybe go to Syria and do some helping out people there. She's so ambitious. Yeah. And so now it's all instrumental. Like, I mean, mostly instrumental. So I think the importance of integrative motivation kind of goes down as they become more integrated, and then instrumental goes up. That's what I think.
That's cool. I kind of took what you said last week and ran with it, which was, I was talking about synopsis about how much my student uses the progressive instead of like the simple present.
Oh.
And you're saying maybe he's overgeneralizing with the progressive, because I had thought it was strange for Spanish, the simple so applicable, and he seems to have done that with the progressive in English. And I just opened the wrong file.
We should just go interview those students. So what do you think about language acquisition?
And I think that might be exactly what he's doing. Like, he figured out it works in a lot of contexts, and he kind of just like makes it work. Like, it's a little bit unnatural a lot, but it works. Like, it makes grammatical sense. So one of my examples was, he said, I went to Georgia because I was participating in a protest. And he said that instead of just saying, I went to Georgia because I participated in a protest. And I think, and another one was like, in Nicaragua, ignore the choice of vocabulary. In Nicaragua, a single human selling her food, and he was talking about how individual people sell their food. And he could have just said, an individual person sells their food.
Oh, he said selling instead of sells.
So I think you're right. I think he's using the present progressive in English the way you use the simple present in Spanish. But I don't know how to prove that.
And the past.
Well, I don't think you have to prove it.
Yeah.
It's a theory, you know. It just can't be unproven.
Yeah.
So I'm just playing with that, and I gave up on like my original, my very first thing, which was tracking his punctuation. Because the very first piece he gave me was like real funky. But his punctuation has been perfect since then. Since the first piece. Like it's beautiful. It's better than like a lot of.
He's just trying to trip you up.
I know. So like he had like period, however, comma. It could be difficult.
Wow.
It's perfect. So I gave up with that. I think it was actually maybe he wrote it like the night before.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I think yours is really interesting, though, how you're seeing, like, a generalization of one rule that's, like, working, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's,
So,
As opposed to one that's
yeah, like, it's, like,
not working.
kind of working,
Yeah.
you know? But it's just, like, making it easier. But,
Yeah. Don't have to think as much.
and then I was also thinking, building off that there's an imperfect tense in Spanish. So it's like, you guys know this. I don't know if you two know this. But they have like the past that sounds more like our past was like when I sat down, it happened, it was over. And then there's a different tense for like every week when I was a child, I went to the zoo. That went would be different because it happened over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's doing that too. Like if he's kind of pulling that in. The fact that like time matters a lot in Spanish.
Yeah, that's interesting. Ooh, that's a good point. I would keep it. Yeah.
So that's what I wrote about this week.
That's kind of like, I don't know, like Trabajawa is like it's kind of like the past. It's not really past progressive. I don't know. It's just like past continuous or something.
It's past continuous.
But then like trabajé, I don't know. It was like I worked.
Are you doing the past stuff better? Yeah, that would be for I. Just trabajé. Yeah. But he doesn't really have a past. So many tenses. Yeah. We just learned all the perfect tenses. Why are there like 6 of them?
Oh yeah. Subjunctive is the worst one.
I'm glad I'm.
Yeah. We just learned the past imperfect subjunctive.
That one is the worst. Because it's you can't translate it. I mean you can, but we don't really use it very much. So it's difficult. Yeah. For my case study, haven't met with her yet. Meeting with her tomorrow. I'm still trying to find ways to, like, new ways to present vocabulary and lexical sets. I kind of liked what you said about the activity, but were you saying that like wasn't really working for you with like vocabulary, or that it was?
No, I'm just finding that it seems like activities improve like vocabulary acquisition specifically. But it's not doing much for like sentences or grammar or like syntax, you know. Okay. But the conversation, it's like a lot of practice for that. But that's what I'm noticing most of. Not that I thought my original question was like which is better for language acquisition, but I just think they kind of serve different purposes and work together.
Which is better.
I thought about doing that, like doing something with her, like to kind of increase her vocabulary in a specific like area.
Yeah.
Really? I need to like work in some activities because right now I'm just like here's a PowerPoint and I try to like include pictures and stuff. It just feels like walking through a dictionary.
Yeah, it's really difficult with vocabulary because it's like you can present it, but they'll forget it. And I know that. Like literally, I'll read something in Spanish. And I'm like, that's what that means, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like
the activities are good because I feel like that vocabulary learning is like easier. Like we were doing origami and he's asking me what the word is. Like, what is this? When he's like folding, I'm like, fold. And he's like, fold. And so he's like, can you fold this way? And then he's using it and he's just like, so it's very like, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just so much easier and more natural and you want to learn because you're like,
kind of like a kinesthetic oriented lesson.
Yeah, that's exactly, like I looked at some articles about that and I was like, oh yeah, this is real.
I gotta figure out what to do with this because like, I have words like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you were still talking.
Oh no, I'm good. I haven't met with her yet. I was just saying like that is kind of like what I'm gonna try to do a little bit. We'll see.
How's it going for you, Sammy?
I met with her Monday. It's hard though, cause like my theory or whatever when I'm researching is the transfer of L1 in pronunciation specifically, but she's like really good at English, so there's very little like pronunciation mistake. Like seriously, like she speaks really good English, so
you should give her some really weird words to say.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like
make her
really listening to her.
That's
talk.
interesting. Yeah, get her tongue twisters maybe. I don't know.
My new student because his syntax is amazing, his vocab is amazing, but his accent is really strong.
Wouldn't that be interesting for you all switch students and then
halfway through be like
rotation? Let me introduce you.
One more time, let's go.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But I don't like if I was like really nitpicking, there's like some little bit weird things like when she links words there's kind of like a back of the throat noise a little bit.
That's something.
I don't know if that's Korean or if that's just like she just does that naturally. I don't know. So
yeah.
So I'm just like I don't want to switch it again. And it was like hard finding her, so I was like, oh, just stick with it. But yeah, it's kind of hard because she just has such good English. But yeah,
I wonder if you could move off of pronunciation.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like if you change your topic to.
I'm thinking about it because like her pronunciation is so
start
good.
pronouncing things wrong.
But like, don't say it like that. Say it wrong.
Let me record you while you say it wrong.
You could ask right to have good pronunciation. Something like that.
Yeah.
Be like, like she has really great pronunciation, so I'm gonna see like how she was able to do that.
Yeah, you could ask her questions about it too.
Yeah,
Like what was hard for you to say? What was hard for you?
Yeah, because she would know better than anyone.
Right.
With her.
That's where I'm at.
Okay. All that's left is a muddy question.
I have a question for you guys. Okay, so you were talking about activities, and I have a bunch of vocabulary, and my student wants to review it. I have words like embellished, nullity, wellspring, meningitis, loathe,
You gotta know
prowess,
meningitis.
treatise, inexorable, tyrannical, and debilitating. What kind of activity do I do with these words?
I didn't know what half of those words meant.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. I was like, I know most of them, thankfully, because my mom's a writing teacher. But
Meningitis. Can't really act that out.
Yeah, I was like,
like lungs.
a lot of the things that lessons we're learning are not for like this high end language, so they wouldn't be so as applicable.
But do you have any like ideas for activities? Because I mean, I can't act
I
things
can
out.
only think of note cards.
Yeah.
But that's not
No.
fun.
No.
Yeah, it's not as
If you
like.
could like take them down in the sentences
Pictures.
that she's finding
Pictures,
them, maybe. Yeah, I always use. I have
Just different pictures and be like, what's, the lung filling up.
Ask her to use them.
What is
That was pneumonia.
pneumonia, sorry.
No.
I don't even know.
I got it mixed up.
I don't even know.
You should tell her to create a paragraph using all those words. And then you can
Oh.
look back at
That's
it
smart.
and be like,
Yeah.
is this used correctly?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do that.
Because then,
Yeah,
she's
honestly.
Oh, I know. She's
Yeah.
so smart.
Oh yeah, you should totally
Yeah.
do that then. Because
That's
I
smart.
That's a good
That
idea.
was
then-
actually force my students to use this new vocab.
Should I end the video? Are we done?
Bye.
Do we have any questions? Well,